what do you think today's home buyers or home sellers are going to be looking for, as far as what value can you give to, you know, the consumer? What direct, I mean, of course, everybody's asking the question of, everybody's speculating, like, what's the market going to do?
Right.
What's it going to go in? And none of us have the answers, but part of the, you know, get with you guys and do this is, I want to talk to other people and hear from them directly, as far as, you know, do you see a difference in your business model, or how do you guys see things going in the future? What's your thoughts?
So I think it's important to separate a couple of things. What you offer, your service and your value, and what you're doing in the market is one thing. At what price is a different thing. So those are two separate things. And so I think there's a lot of uncertainty as to what are the prices in the future are going to be. I think there's going to be some relatively stability in the real estate market in the next 4 months. 6 months into it, maybe towards the end of the year, I think we don't know. Coming into this year, there was a lot of uncertainty just in general. You know, there was a trade issue with China and Europe. There was it's an election issue, which it brings its own issues. And so I think there's still some things that were already happening. And then with this whole coronavirus situation, I think it's accelerated some of those things and just made them worse. But so separating those things, so we don't know where prices are going to be. I think there's going to be, like I said, some relatively stability moving forward through the summer. But then but even let's say that prices do go down. Prices going down, that's one thing. Another thing is, what do we offer? And so we are in the business of providing retail properties to home buyers. So that's what we're doing. And then we're connecting the people that are willing to take the risk to fund and invest in these properties to service that market. I think that market's still going to be there. I mean, even if you look down on the last recession that we had, that was, you know, the housing meltdown, even then people were buying homes because, you know, families are going to be forming, people are going to be getting married. There's a ton of sectors in the economy that are actually booming. And then there are some trends that are going to accelerate with this whole virus thing. And so, for example, Charlotte has always seen a net migration. So there's always people moving to Charlotte, and it's people from up north and maybe California, and even some people from Florida moved to Charlotte. And so I think that could be a trend that's accelerated once people look how they're living, and if they had a plan, a 5-year plan to move out of New York because it's expensive, and now they're looking at this situation, they're looking and asking themselves, well, wait a minute, the vaccine is 18 months out. Whoa, you know, what should I be doing? Should I actually be selling my home right now and moving down to Charlotte, or, you know, a city like Charlotte? And so I think some of those trends are going to be accelerated that were already there. So I think our market, it's still going to be there. Now the pricing of that market, it's you know, it's a question, and definitely we need to be looking out for that. You know, even for you as a realtor, because that's what you need to be doing. You know, watching and advising the people that you're working with, your clients, to make sure that they get all the data that they can get to make an informed decision that best fits what their goals are.
Well, it's funny because I was speaking with an appraiser friend, and I said to him, you know, some people took their houses off the market when this started, especially owner-occupied property, and, you know, on the market. And I think, you know, as is the case with any, you know, group of people, you may have some people that may decide to kind of have a fire sale, and you have other people that, if, you know, that if they can afford to hang on, they're going to hang on and they're going to stay with the existing pricing. Our inventory is still very low here in Charlotte. So I initially said I thought this would be more of a blip on the radar. And when I had spoken with a friend who's an appraiser, I asked him, I said, if you start to see some properties that were listed at this number and sold for this number, how is that going to affect future comps? And I thought his answer was really interesting because he talked about how with him, what he would do is he would call both agents. He would have conversations with both agents to do a little bit more digging, find out why did the house sell for so much less than what it was, originally listed at. And he said if they basically came back and said, it had to do with the virus and this, that, and the other, in his opinion, in this one appraiser's opinion, he would take that comp and he would throw it out. He wouldn't use it. So I think if it becomes a wide trend, then they may have to. But I think if there's some anomalies, there are appraisers that, are going to go the extra mile to find out why, and they will not use them. Now, granted, there are other appraisers that may say they don't care and they're going to just use those. I mean, you know the deal. You can get 10 different appraisers and get 10 different, valuations. But I thought that was interesting. I also think that, we're one of the places that corporations and people are still moving to. And like we talked about yesterday, I think you have a lot of, being a native New Yorker myself, I think, I have friends that still say that, at some point they're thinking about moving down, and whether that's down to Florida, which a lot of, New Yorkers do, or down to North Carolina, or Florida and then North Carolina as a half pack, people move. I think the fact that so many people are cooped up in apartments, they may decide that, hey, this might light the fire to say, I think it's time to, to pull the trigger and possibly move, which would be great for you guys because, middle income homes in Queens, for example, 600,000 to $1 million. I mean, they could sell what's basically an attached or semi-attached home up there in a very middle income neighborhood and move into something like, the house that you guys did on Sardis Lane, which was gorgeous. I mean, the quality of life is a completely different level than what folks are used to in New York. So I wonder if you're going to see people moving from higher cost of living, more dense areas like New York and moving down here, in which case I think your price point is fairly insulated.
Yeah, no, and I mean, and you got to be thinking also long-term trends with this whole situation. I mean, usually, I don't think we've ever had a chat over Zoom or anything. I mean, we've always met either at a restaurant, a coffee shop, at a house that we were building. It's face to face. It's a lot of in person. But, we can accomplish a lot by doing this. And so I think a lot of companies too are going to realize that this is a real tool that they can get people to use, that people can become accustomed to, that they can be productive through. And so once people start and businesses start pushing the workforce to work from home or give them that availability, even in the market that we are, some of the townhomes that we build and sell, people are looking for that office space. I can't remember, Andres, who you were talking to, but we were discussing when we were designing the last batch of townhomes that we were building, just having that extra space so that you can have a computer or, just your work area. Because a lot of these jobs that are coming now online, they are for people to work online. And so people are going to rethink their spaces. And so there was a huge trend on, hey, smaller spaces, flexible spaces. But the reality is when you have a family, you need a dedicated space for your office. And there's a lot of families and households that are being formed right now that eventually will have children. And so I think the single family house market, it's going to benefit from that trend, and especially the builders that can accommodate for that, those changes in your lifestyle. Hey, now you really need to be working from home. Well, what does that look like? You need a space where you can actually be quiet and do all this. The other day I was on a call with somebody, and somebody was talking, like a quiet room where you can have your phone calls. But it was like a 6 by 6 room that's all
It's a
soundproof. And I was like,
closet.
yeah, that you're taking that to the extreme. I don't
Yeah.
think we're there yet. Um, but it was, nonetheless, it was the point of maybe people are gonna again consider, move from a 2-bedroom apartment where they're cooked in with their wife and their children, and they need more space, and so they're going to be looking for that three-bedroom home, but they also would like to have an office space, a dedicated space, so that they
Hmm.
can do what they need to be doing from home. So I think there's going to be a little bit of that. So I think builders will have to adjust and accommodate for that type of setting.
Well, and I also wonder, I mean, New York, California aside, I mean, even people who are currently living here that are in either apartments or condos where they've had to be in shared spaces, shared hallways, shared elevators, that sort of thing. I wonder if you're going to see more of a push towards purchasing single family homes, whether it be just for the space and the privacy, or whether it be more for I'm seeing a lot of more people vegetable gardening. I mean, it may be more that they just want the yard and the space to grow their own vegetables as well.
Yep.
Kind of interesting to see how, because there's a cause and effect to everything, right? So,
Yeah, and I also see long term, Airbnb and platforms like Airbnb had become very popular. If you
mhm,
call any investor that owns right now more than 5 Airbnbs, they'll tell you what dire situation they're in.
mhm,
But then you got to be asking yourself is, okay, so on the other side of this, nobody's saying that this thing's going to go away. That eventually, sometime in the future, if
yeah,
they get to an actual vaccine that works, you're going to be able to prevent, the whole virus situation. But in the meantime, what do you do? And so your choice is, I want to go on vacation. I have the money to do it. How do I do that? Do I want to go and stay in my own place where I can make my own food and I don't have to be touching the same stuff that other people are touching,
yeah,
like I would at a resort or in a hotel or a similar setting, versus going to an Airbnb property? Um, and so I think those people are hurting, but it also they have a potential to also accelerate that trend where people would rather be renting a setting like an Airbnb as opposed to a hotel room, and that would definitely benefit. I mean, on the beach, there's a lot of condos that operate like that, but there's also a lot of single family homes that are rented constantly and all the time. So it could also help the real estate market as well.
yeah. And it's funny, I spoke with one of the wholesalers that we know, and I asked him what his thoughts were on it. And maybe I'll do an interview with him as well, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But I said, where do you see the market going? What do you see happening? And, unfortunately, there are people that, didn't have 2 to 3 months worth of income saved up. And, we may see a spike in foreclosures anywhere from, 6, 9 months to a year. And that's just kind of the unfortunate reality of all this. Um, the other thing we were talking about was lenders. Are you seeing a difference? I know a little bit with the hard money lenders. I know, like the retail lenders, so to speak, for retail buyers and sellers, we're seeing a tightening up on credit scores, and some are now wanting, used to be you could do 3% down. Some are now requiring, a higher percentage down.
Yeah.
Credit score. What are you guys seeing? Are you?
We're seeing some lenders are lowering the loan to values that they're offering. Other ones are doing that and increasing interest rates. And some of them are just getting out of some spaces. So we had a loan that we were going to do for new construction with a lender, and everything was good. All we're waiting for was the appraisal, right?
No, the appraisal was in. We're just waiting to close.
We're just waiting to close. And,
Yep.
and with the news of the virus, they decided not to do the loan. So yeah. So I think a lot of them are just, and it's not necessarily the company, is their business model. If they were selling those loans to other investors after they were underwriting them, then those other investors are dictating what they're willing to pay for them. And so they have to restructure in order to be able to sell those loans and not keep them in their books, because a lot of those companies do not have the ability to keep the loans in their books.
Wow.
Yeah, so we are seeing, and so Andres is correct. That's what we're seeing. We are seeing a tightening of the market, but it's driven by two factors. Mainly, the institutional buyer, like Andres was saying, the hard money lender issues the loan, creates the package, and then they sell that loan to somebody else. So that's called the secondary market. So the secondary market closes, and so then there is no money flowing through for people to do the rehabs. And then the people that are back online, because there's people that stopped their operation.
We're good. It was saying we were coming up on the 40 minutes, but apparently we're getting gifted some more time. So we're
Okay. So no, so there's people that pull back, and there's people that are calling us now, hey, if you're doing rehabs or remodels, we're back online. And so because the shock of what happened, a lot of people tell me, how do you see it? And I'm like, well, this is like if you were going 80 miles an hour and you crashed the car against the wall. This is how abrupt the stop has been, and then you gotta push the car away from the wall. Well, I guess take the passengers out of the car first. And then start seeing what's left over of the car, passengers, assuming the passengers are alive. Then you can start working on the car to fix it, right? But this is not a car that was going 45 miles an hour and it broke down and it slowly, that's not what happened here. And so a lot of lenders took very quick reaction, closed their operation down, but now they're coming back online. And now that they're seeing some of the lag on the government response, which is understandable. I mean, it's trillions of dollars that they're trying to put through programs, different programs that they've never done before. So it's expected to not be perfect, to have a lot of issues and a delay. And so that generates a genuine delay. And so here we are, a few weeks into this situation, and just now we're seeing that money being put into people's pocket and just go where it was intended, and sometimes where it wasn't intended. And so there's a lot of things that are going to start happening, and it's going to create some type of reaction, because there's just no reality where you put trillions of dollars to work and it doesn't generate a reaction. It's going to, but we don't know what that's going to look like, because the level that they've done it, it's unprecedented. We've never seen anything like this before. But nonetheless.
Yeah. I mean, on the buyer side, there's other realtors that we know that I was talking with that the stocks took a hit and people initially lost like 30%. I know it's rebounded to some extent after that, but there are agents that we know that had clients that when their portfolio took a hit, the clients said, you know what, we're gonna take a pause, because they had planned on using some of that money as down payment money, and now that money wasn't there. Flip side of the coin, you have the other side, which we already talked about, which is the people that are living paycheck to paycheck. And then, like we talked about, even with the lenders, I think if there are people that were not diversified, which we had talked a little bit about yesterday, if most of their money is tied up in stocks and they wanted to diversify into real estate, I don't know if a lot of people are even aware that you could take money out of your 401k and create a self-directed IRA. And there are companies that specialize in that. And they could basically fund builders like yourselves, builds like what you're doing at an interest rate secured by the real estate. So,
Right.
yeah. So, well, I mean, I think that's pretty much everything I can think of or was planning on covering. Was there anything else you guys wanted to talk about?
No, I think this was, very good just to connect, to stay in touch, to be able to talk what's going on. Definitely, what we've always liked about you is that you don't stay put. You're very active. And so I've always seen you as a person that's very active and proactive. You're trying and you're reaching for that next thing and you're striving for that. And I think that's what's going to be key in the months to come for people, not only people in business, but people in their lives. This change is always happening. It's just that now it's happening faster. And it's so important to people to understand that change is inevitable and we have to change with it. We have to be able to adapt. And it's been proven. I mean, the society has always been very resilient and they adapt. And so here we are at a point in our history where we will have to adapt. And I think we're doing that very well, even though it doesn't seem like it.
No, I think you're completely on point. I think the people that recognize that there's a change and change with it or adjust their businesses with it are the ones that are going to survive. And the ones that just keep doing what they've always been doing may not be here tomorrow, So I think it's important to recognize where the need is and to fill the need wherever we possibly can. So, but this was awesome. I'm so glad we had a chance to catch up.
It was good to see you, Shannon.
Yeah, thank you.
It was good to see you. So, all right, guys. Well, I guess we'll talk soon. We'll definitely do this again. I can't believe we waited this long to do it.
Hey,
So,
we got it done.
We did.
All right. Thank you, Shannon.
Mwah, mwah. Love you guys.
Bye.